Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. Bendy?
You'll find out.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the rampant was so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us the star-spangled banner.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope you are doing fantastic out there, and that is what we all think we sound like when we're singing karaoke. I'm pretty sure there's about 10 people out there that got a good laugh out of that one. Dan Vasc, if you are wondering who that is, Dan Vasc, B-A-S-C is the last name on YouTube. You can go find that. Man, Dan has got some amazing music too. He's got another version of Amazing Grace, which is one of my favorites, but go check him out. Dan Vasc, you can just search Star Spangled Banner heavy metal version, and Dan's video should pop up there. But man, what another great week it's turning out to be. And you know, the comms that are happening in the backdrop are truly remarkable, more so than I can probably ever remember. This is pretty profound. It was quite interesting. So a lot of people who watched DEF CON 0 last night, I was talking about, I have all of these old decodes that I used to do sitting out there on a platform, right? And so everybody's like, oh, well, some people were asking, where are these? What platform are they on? Well, it's funny because I don't usually use this platform anymore. I don't upload to it anymore. And so for me, it's really hard to drive traffic there, but I have no problem doing it because I can't get the videos off. That's the biggest problem. But if you guys are interested in all of our old Q decodes from Q Patriot days or the original Daily Dose episodes, you can go to our Odyssey profile. And so I had a flash through memory lane right here. So our Odyssey profile, Red Pill Project, news media updates, You get a Conversations on the Fringe episode sitting up there. And this is when we used to do Conversation on the Fringe all the time. But if you go down, and I think it's Q Patriot Media or Q Patriot News, but you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, and you start finding some oldies and goodies. I mean, you get into the 300 versions. We're on episode 993 right now on the Daily Dose. So you get everything from episode 1 all the way up to like 380. But then if you go further down, and you got to scroll, this is how many episodes we've done throughout the years, guys. Right here, QAnon post right here, QAnon decodes. I got quite a few of our old decodes sitting up there for you guys to watch. Q Patriot interviews, Cyrus Parsa, God rest his soul. But if you want to find those old Q decodes that we did back in the day, they are sitting right here on Odyssey, and you just go to odyssey.com/@redpillproject. And it should be linked up on the website as well. But some people are asking for that, like, where do we find your old decodes? Right here. And one of the biggest ones, if people remember, is the New York City one right here. This one. 35 minutes long. Alice in Wonderland, Q equals Alice, New York City tunnels. You should definitely watch that one. That is a badass episode. Even I like that episode. Just joking. But check that episode out if you want to learn more about the symbology behind a lot of the Q post, as well as if you go into the original WikiLeaks emails of Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and they're starting talking about the Mad Hatter, they start talking about Madame Alice, why they're talking about that, why they are talking like that. When you get into bloody Wonderland, when you get into Saudi Arabia, this was a great revelation to me when I started in the Q boards and I started decoding. I started really looking into this. What I realized is that Wonderland, what they were talking about, Wonderland, was not Saudi Arabia over here and Podesta over here. It was New York City. And when you start to look at the Clinton Foundation, you start looking at the pier where trafficking occurs, you start looking at the underground tunnels that occur under Manhattan, and then you look at the distribution to the various embassies. The Saudi Arabian embassy is right there, right across the river, right by the Clinton Initiative. And you start putting it all together. 5-5, you get Madison Avenue, all of this. Just go watch the episode. It's been a long time since I did that. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll go reference these when we're talking about various different decodes, but that episode right there, I lay it out in an organizational structure. Makes sense because tonight's discussion is the systematic destruction of the old guard. And when you're talking about a global criminal syndicate, multinational criminal organization that's infiltrated in the politics, in the massive institutions and organizations and big business, they have to have some type of hierarchy of command. And in that episode, I lay it out that Clinton, Hillary Clinton, was like the feudal leader, the governor of that area of criminality. And that you have different lieutenants and generals underneath her. And this is partitioned throughout the entire planet on different portions. So in perspective, think about it as if she was the overseer of this region, which had all the high levels political influence. Great episode, QAnon, New NYC Tunnels, Alice in Wonderland. Check that out on my Odyssey. Let's just jump right into it, I guess, right? Why not? When we were live last night on DEFCON 0, Dan Scavino posted, I didn't really get too much into them, but I did, and I got into it. And one of the posts that we were talking about, well, two of them, Dan Scavino posted two different posts, or two sets of posts. And sometimes Scavino does this with posts, two sets of posts. And this one is believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. And then he posted popcorn, Starcade popcorn. Now the timestamps for these is number one is the popcorn goes to post 2108, which talks about military intelligence team, military intelligence battalion, strategic signal intelligence, designation military intelligence team, etc., etc. Then he goes in here, Utah, OCMC, Detachment Alpha. Interesting, right? Well, now he goes fly, RR fly. RR is Rod Rosenstein. Desperate people do desperate things. It is during this period of time that surveillance pays off. When does a bird sing? Oh, interesting. So interesting enough that he's throwing popcorn up and it correlates directly when does a bird sing, as in popcorn ready because there's about to be some breakthroughs. The next one, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything, goes directly to the Band of Anons, 2144, which there's a quote in there. Now, read Trump's quote again, right? And it says, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything, and then correlate it with this Band of Anons quote. There was a time when the world asked ordinary men to do extraordinary things. They sacrificed everything for it. And then he says, we serve at the pleasure of President Trump. Wow. That correlated directly with this timestamp. So that was the first one. So I kind of described this right here, but the second one is where he correlates more information. You remember the first post is fly, Rod Rosenstein, fly, but he's saying, when does a bird sing? And I've been saying that Comey's going to sing. I said that Comey is going to be the one that turns on everybody. Well, Scavino posted these two gems. The first one is a repost of John Brennan, where he posts a picture of a clown. And the second one is a repost of James Comey, where he posts a picture of Trump in the sunshine. Now, this is huge comms. Now, the John Brennan post has a timestamp of 2348, which is in 2018, Boards was referencing the rogue submarine that attempted an assassination on Trump on July 10th, 2018, when Trump left the G7 summit headed towards a meeting with Kim Jong-un in Singapore. This was known as the Whidbey Island incident, where the missile is launched from a submarine at the exact time Air Force One was supposed to be over the Pacific. Although Air Force One went a different direction at the last minute, the sub would have never have known because they were in comms dark, therefore the mission failed. The next day, on June 11th, Donald Trump removed John Brennan's security clearance. In August 2018, 2 months before to the date, a hijacker at Alaska Airlines steals a Q400 double prop aircraft, does loop-de-loops in the air with it, and then flies a radar cross pattern of a Q over an island known as Ketron Island. Ketron Island back in the early 2000s was owned by a defense contractor where U.S. subs used to be decommissioned. One of the subs in 2003 that was decommissioned was known as the USS Richard B. Russell. The name of the hijacker on the plane? Richard B. Russell. Not a coincidence at all. They destroyed the sub command center as Q verified. Scavino has shown Brennan is the bad actor that attempted to take Trump out, that he's a clown. Now, what are the odds that the next post with Comey is relevant? The next timestamp is timestamp 0007. And it says here, why wasn't HRC prosecuted for the emails? Interesting enough, Comey is the one who was prosecuting Clinton over the emails. He says, put simply, Obama ultimately okayed by using a non-government email addy to communicate with Clinton. Obama also had an alias along with each of his cabinet members. Therefore, indicting HRC would lead to indicting Obama and his cabinet, etc., which could never happen. Remember, he lied about knowing, but ultimately came out in the dump. And this is what I think is going to happen. These emails from Hillary Clinton's private email server, personal emails with code names of Obama and his administration, Brennan, differential comms utilized on the Xbox, on Activision, are all going to come out. And I think that James Comey is the one that presented that to them. Why? So you have to understand that Comey is in a lot of trouble. Comey understands he's in a lot of trouble. He's a freaking lawyer. He's the former head of the FBI. He knows what's coming down the pipe. So if you're a James Comey and you've already shown in the history to be weak, what do I mean? Well, you go back to October 30th, 2016, when Admiral Rogers approached James Comey with an audio recording of the Clinton Lynch tarmac meeting and forced him, through coercion, to reopen the Clinton email investigation. James Comey did. As in, James Comey was swayed. Oh shit, I better do this. With that being said, Comey has shown that he will acquiesce under the pressure. So let's just assume that President Trump's coming back in. How would James Comey get in contact with the Trump administration without directly going to the Trump administration and saying, hey, I want to be a witness. I want immunity. This is what I'll tell you everything. How does he do that? Well, you know how Comey did it? He posted a meme on his social media of 8647. 8647. Who visited James Comey? He had to go to Washington, D.C. and give a statement to the Secret Service. Wonder who else he talked to. I wonder what kind of documents he signed when he was there. Because the first two investigations that were announced by the DOJ were to James Comey and John Brennan. Dan Scavino just posted James Comey and John Brennan. With John Brennan, he puts a clown. With James Comey, he puts Trump and sunshine. Trump smiling down. Comey brings the light, dark the light. Comey is singing. Comey is telling everybody everything. Comey, I said, will be the first arrest. Why? Because that's the only way that his immunity agreement will hold up when he testifies against the deep state. Remember, you heard it here first. So awesome comms by Dan Scavino right there. There was something else I was talking about last night, and I didn't get to it on DEFCON 0. This is pretty profound. This is pretty profound, people. When I saw this and it hit me, I was like, oh, wow. It was a Q confirmation that we never saw. I shit you not. I'm pulling up Q Post 14 right now, right? Everybody knows it's the most famous Q Post out there. George Washington crossing the Delaware Christmas Eve on a Durham boat, right? It says skiff, military intelligence. This is October 31st, 2017. It says, what is state secrets and how upheld in the Supreme Court? What must be completed to engage military intelligence over other three-letter agencies? What must occur to allow for civilian trials? Why is this relevant? We got validation of this post. So it says, what must be completed to engage military intelligence over three-letter agencies? You would have to have a belligerent occupation. We know that happened. Then he says, what must occur to allow for civilian trials? Well, whoever that overseer is of the intelligence agencies would have to make the criminal referrals to the DOJ. But you have to understand what he's saying here is, how do we get someone from military intelligence, a high-ranking official in military intelligence, into the overseeing of all the intelligence communities? Military intelligence, that's what this is all about. How do we get the military back in control of all the intelligence apparatus? How do we do it? Who's the director of national intelligence? Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. Interesting, isn't it? Who's the highest ranking civilian serving in U.S. intelligence that is also a U.S. military officer, which would bring this military office full engagement over all three-letter agencies across the board, including the CIA, the NSA, NRO, NGO? Who has sent the criminal referrals to the DOJ? Who is pulling all of the classified information that we knew was destroyed by the Biden and Obama administration? Who is pulling that classified documentation out and saying, hey, look, we're finding this documentation. I'm sending criminal referrals to DOJ. Remember, you got to remember here. Cash Patel said, oh, we had a locked room at the FBI. We go in there and it's a broom closet and there's burn bags of the Durham Annex and all this other stuff in there. No, there wasn't. They destroyed that shit. Where did Cash Patel get this? Remember John Brennan saying, Obama saying, they came out and said what DNI Tulsi Gabbard is saying is made up information. It's Russian propaganda. It never happened. It doesn't exist. The reason they are saying that is because they destroyed all copies and all files, but yet Tulsi Gabbard seems to have it all. How? Military intelligence. The NSA has had it all. It's all inadmissible in court. They have records and copies of everything. So Q14 right here validated what must be completed to engage military intelligence over other three-level agencies. You have to go through a belligerent occupation, and then you have to be very, very strategic in your appointments. And boom, in walks Tulsi Gabbard, Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Army, read into all the programs, has very, very top secret security clearance, understands Trump's campaign, understands Trump's agenda. Boom. She's the facilitator of bringing the military intelligence operation out into the public, making it appear as if it is directly coming from the Department of the Director of National Intelligence, that it's all these documents that they had that they destroyed, but then we had copies of it. We're bringing it forth. And then she's sending the criminal referrals out to the DOJ. Holy shit. I'll say it again. Remember, you heard it here first. Then it gets better. It fucking gets better. You know, for years, I've been asking the question. I've been asking, where's Jeff Sessions? Where is Jeff Sessions? He fell off the face of the earth in February 2021. Nobody heard from him. You know, I always go back to a few different Q posts. 2603, this one specifically, December 12th, 2018, right? It's goodbye, Mr. Rosenstein. Scheduled for tomorrow. Where's Huber? Nobody is above the wall. The world is worth watching. And then he says, what if there's another prosecutor outside of DC assigned by Sessions with the same mandate and authority? One for the history books. Not long now. Now, that's not the only time that this was mentioned. It's mentioned in another one, 3581. The calm before the storm, POTUS. Month Day Q Public Campaign Initiative. Well, that's October 28th. Month Day Durham initiated October 28th. What famous crime family did Durham target? The Gambino crime family. What ABC agency did Durham target? How are messages sent? December 12th, 2018. Ready? What if there's another prosecutor outside of DC assigned by Sessions with the same mandate and authority? Do you believe in coincidences? Be ready, patriots. Now, this doesn't stop there with Jeff Sessions. If you start going through everything with Jeff Sessions, he's directly involved in all of this. And he's not a bad actor in any of it. So what we take out is that Sessions left the Trump campaign for a reason. Now, do you remember who the interim person was that covered for Jeff Sessions? If you say Matt Whitaker, you're right. Do you remember when Truth Social first came out and Cash Patel posted a photo of a guy in jeans with his boots on the table? It was Devin Nunes, by the way. And there's another guy there, Matt Whitaker, and Cash Patel. And he says, just hanging out with Q. And Matt Whitaker's name is the Hammer. So he's currently serving as the 26th United States ambassador to NATO right now, Matt Whitaker. I have a feeling he might get reorganized into Florida as a special prosecutor. Just saying, just my thoughts. He's the perfect person for it because he took over for Sessions. He knows what's going on. But I think that might be Jeff Sessions, depending on how well Jeff Sessions is aged. But why am I talking about Jeff Sessions? Because Representative Comer yesterday announced that he's going to bring in a whole bunch of people to testify on the Epstein files. Now, you got to remember, who was the one in the Senate Intelligence Committee, then as Attorney General, who processed the Epstein files? Jeff Sessions. If anybody knows what's in those files, it's Jeff Sessions. August 28th, 2025, Jeff Sessions has been subpoenaed to testify in front of Congress. Former Attorney General Jeff Sessions was one of the people subpoenaed yesterday by Representative Comer. He has not been seen publicly since February 2021. I wonder what he's been up to. I wonder what he will say in his testimony. S will be back in D.C. And if you don't know that story, I truly believe Jeff Sessions is a patriot. There is actually a Q post out there talking about this specifically. Let me see if I had pulled it up. I should have it here somewhere. Where is it? Jeff Sessions. There's so many Jeff Sessions posts out here. Man, I thought I grabbed it. But yes, Sessions began the Epstein investigation. When that is revealed, those who doubt it may see the light. Oh, hold on. This is an important post because he's testifying August 28th. This is from July 8th, 2019, post 3370. Sessions began the Epstein investigation. When that is revealed, those who doubted may see the light. The wheels of justice turn slow, but when they turn, they are powerful. 10 times speed underway. We're back online. Look at that. Oh, that's what I wanted to bring it up. There it is. I found it. And this is what Q has to say about Jeff Sessions. I got to blow the image up. Back in 2011, the indomitable Peter Schweizer published Throw Them All Out, a detailed examination of the political corruption that is actually practiced in the halls of Congress. In his investigation, Schweizer found one single member of Congress against whom no allegations could be held, who had never taken a dime that was not his, had never cut any backroom deals, had never, simply put, played the game. That individual was Jeff Sessions. Sessions is a quintessential Eagle Scout. He will follow the rules down to the last subclause and will not make his move until every T has been crossed and every I dotted. Understand, Jeff Sessions is about to come back into play in the Graham chessboard. Epstein is on target. Why? Epstein is the keystone that brings everything together, and we're going to learn that relatively soon. And as I've been saying, where's Jeff Sessions? I said it 6 months ago. I said what? I said you are going to see the return of Jeff Sessions to Washington, D.C. Did I not? Jeff Sessions is coming back to Washington, D.C. All right, developing from Paul Sperry. Sources are telling him that ODNI and CIA are preparing affidavits for more than a dozen additional whistleblowers who will attest to the intelligence abuses aimed at President Trump, which we presented as evidence in the federal grand jury once AG Bondi selects a district to hear the case. The media say that Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, did manipulate intelligence to frame Trump. But now a top CIA analyst and 12 other individuals who co-authored the January 2017 report on Russian interference reveals for the first time that a pathological Brennan put analysts under duress to cook the intel. So we have 12 whistleblowers that are going to come out and going to testify against the Intelligence Committee, against James Clapper, against John Brennan. Guys, they are fucked. Excuse my French. They are fucked. Let's listen to Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard, U.S. military intelligence, now the Director of National Intelligence.
Like Morning Joe, seemingly befuddled, saying that by no account is any of this true. I would challenge them to see if they've actually read the documents, every single page of the documents that we've released over the last couple of weeks. If not, go to odni.gov, G-O-V. It's all right there for anyone to see. And those who go in and read this will see how President Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called to talk about Russia, that the report that came out of that meeting was filled with tasks that were delivered by James Clapper's assistant to John Brennan and to other elements of the intelligence community. John Brennan was the head of the CIA at the time, all saying per the president's direction, per the president's order. And very specifically, they were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if, but how. And this was the beginning of this manufactured intelligence assessment where they knowingly wrote things in this assessment that were false, and they knew they were false. They knew that they were basing it on discredited intelligence or documents like the Steele dossier that was politically motivated and that they knew was false. And this was how they came up with the Russia hoax that was then weaponized and used to try to delegitimize the president, President Trump, and to try to ultimately enact.
So what Tulsi's saying there is that they knew it was all bullshit and they went through with it anyway. Now, this is interesting because let me scroll down a little bit. I got to find the post. I got it pulled up on my phone because I was going to talk to her about it. Where is it? It's up more, isn't it? Nope, it's down more. Should have came up already. I know I'm wasting your time sometimes, huh? All right, hold on. We should be coming up with it here soon. It was a little bit earlier today. I'm in my replies. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Okay, don't worry. I'm reposting this on my X account so I can find it real quick. Let me refresh real quick. Boom. 373. How many people on X right now? 373 of you are not subscribed to me. Please subscribe. Okay. General Michael Flynn here talking and bringing up Anderson Cooper. He's with Charlie Kirk. Listen to this.
John Brennan and Jim Comey and I are part of the group that were tasked by President Obama to put together all the reporting we had on the Russian interference, and which we did. President Obama directly and personally confronted Putin about the Russian interference in September and did not accept at face value Putin's protestations. John Brennan directly did the same thing with his counterpart.
Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, was that the clip that you were mentioning?
Yeah, I'd say that's perfect. That was perfect. So thank you for teeing that up. So for your audience, so he said in September, and that's September of 2016. What's very important is on the 3rd of August of 2016, 3 August 2016, Brennan, back to Brennan, he brought into President Obama at that time into the Oval Office the dossier and told Obama at that time that was made up information from the Hillary Clinton campaign that they were going to use as their October surprise against Trump to win the presidency. So Brennan and Obama on the 3rd of August of 2016 knew then that it was made up baloney from the Hillary Clinton campaign to attack Trump so she could be the president. So here's Clapper. It's a really important piece of evidence here that Clapper says in September, so a month later, here is Clapper saying that the president directed him as the director of national intelligence to gather all the evidence about what Russia was doing to interfere in our elections. Well, Obama already knew that this scheme was in play. That was August of 2016. Now we fast forward, Trump wins, and I'll remind your audience again, there was a very famous text message that I brought out in my case from Strzok to his lover and number 2 lawyer at the FBI, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok was the deputy director of counterespionage for the FBI. And in his text message to her is, if Trump wins, we have a insurance policy, right? If he should win, we have an insurance policy. Well, after I get picked by Trump, after Obama said, no, we can't have him, I get picked by Trump to be the national security advisor. Now it's like, oh my God, this guy who ran one of the largest intelligence agencies in the world, had a very different view and was very close to Trump on our foreign policy ideas. On the 8th of December, this is one of the bombshells that Tulsi discovered. On the 8th of December, in the Oval Office, after Trump beat Hillary, which they didn't expect, they then sat in that meeting and they conspired to start the engines of Russia going. Fast forward one more month, 5 January 2017, they did it again. This time in that meeting, and this is hard evidence, Charlie, in the court of law, hard evidence that during that 5 January meeting, they said, essentially, we need to get Flynn out in order to get Trump, okay? And we know.
All right. So timelines are important here. The timeline is important to remember. This is what I'm saying to General Flynn. And General Flynn knows this. I'm just posting it as a reference. The August 3rd briefing was a cover your ass briefing. In other words, cover your ass to make it look as official as possible. The briefing that they had, they discussed everything pertaining to the sealed dossier. They knew it was compromised, all of this stuff. They were discussing what they had of actual Russian evidence. This was a cover your ass sessions because they'd all been briefed on all of this before. Remember in 2006, Donald Trump said at the press correspondence dinner, the 4th of July weekend with FBI Director James Comey, Hillary Clinton, right? Then he said 39 times. He wasn't even president yet. Trump knew all the details. Guys, this is one of the most telling signs in the world that Trump was recruited by military intelligence and military intelligence had it all from the beginning. What am I talking about here? Let me pull up the post, because when we begin to understand this, one of the things that this does is this validates the Q boards and the military operation to a frigging T, because there is no way that Donald Trump would know this information without a security clearance and not being president. And we got to remember the time frame of this. This is August 2016, or maybe it's September, October 2016 of when this is happening. This is the press correspondence dinner. And I played this a few times already. I'm going to play it right now. This is before Donald Trump is actually president. And he says this.
I'd like to address an important religious matter, the issue of going to confession, or as Hillary calls it, the 4th of July weekend with FBI Director Comey.
There is no way he would know that information. Then he goes on.
Now, I'm told Hillary went to confession before tonight's event. But the priest was having a hard time when he asked her about her sins, and she said she couldn't remember 39 times.
Notice she's not laughing right there. 39 is the reference to special access programs and Orcon material. Military intelligence, military secrets being stolen. Donald Trump at this point in time is not president of the United States. He has no security clearance. He's getting daily briefings, but he knows. And he knows the whole scam and scheme from the beginning. So when we go back and start talking about timelines, gotta find my post here. When we start talking about timelines, remember in 2016, Trump said during the press correspondence dinner, the 4th of July weekend with FBI Director Comey. This happened 7 days after the Clinton-Lynch tarmac meeting. So here's a timeline of the planning. June 27th, Leonard Bernardo of the Open Society Foundation sends an email saying Hillary Clinton has agreed to the plan of the Trump-Russia collusion. He also says that they have no evidence, but CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will get the evidence for them. The same day, June 27, 2016, Bill Clinton meets with Attorney General Loretta Lynch in Arizona on the tarmac of the Phoenix airport. So Leonard is sending this email out saying, hey, I think he's talking to Sinclair. Hey, they've agreed to it. We're going to go forward with it. Bill Clinton is setting it up with Loretta Lynch, promises her a Supreme Court case. You just have to drop the case against Hillary Clinton on the emails. We'll give you a Supreme Court seat when she gets into office. You need to set up meetings with James Comey and Barack Obama. The next thing that happens is July 4th weekend, Hillary meets with FBI Director James Comey. 7 days after the AG Lynch meeting. July 5th, 2016, the Clinton email case is dropped. Who was the lead FBI investigator on the Clinton email case? The director of counterintelligence at the FBI by the name of Peter Strzok. Oh, July 7th, Hillary gets on a plane to South Carolina with, well, that plane was Air Force One, Barack Obama. July 31st, Crossfire Hurricane begins. The lead counterintelligence investigator for the FBI on that case, Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok is the same one that texted Lisa Page saying, don't worry, if Trump wins, we got an insurance policy. August 3rd, the CYA briefing at the White House where Brennan briefs Obama on the dirt they both knew was cooked up by Clinton, Soros, CrowdStrike, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS team. Obama knew at a minimum on July 7th. Brennan most likely was involved since the inception of the Open Society Foundation and Clinton camp. This was treason from the get-go. And let me ask you this. What typically happens when something big is about to drop against them? Confirmed active shooter on the U.S. Army base, Fort Stewart. 5 soldiers injured, luckily none dead. Shooter apprehended. I'm curious when the information on the shooter is going to come out. I want to know who that shooter is. Now, someone asked me in the Q&A last night, how does this all tie in with 2020 election theft? I covered this last night, but it's important to note again. Emerald Robinson has been top on this. Go follow her on X. But the Miami Herald is reporting that federal prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida have accused and indicted Smartmatic executive Roger Penate of bribing Juan Lucena Ramirez, former head of elections in the Philippines. He's under U.S. detainment, people. When does a bird sing? Think about that. We have a Smartmatic executive. Now, Lord Malik Brown was the chairman of Smartmatic from 2014 to 2020. At the same time, on the board of directors of the Open Society Foundation. George Soros, we know, funded the Attorney General and Secretary of State campaigns in 2018 for the midterms. Those Attorney Generals and Secretary of States came really into effect in 2020 when they unconstitutionally changed the election laws in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia, allowing the election to be stolen by a thin margin, of which Smartmatic was part of that, with ballot running schemes on one side and then computer code on the other side. How is that connected to FISA-gate? Because you have the George Soros connection. The George Soros connection is the back end. So when we talk about the systematic destruction of the old guard, you got to go back into the Q boards. You got to look at Family Y. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Family Y on the Q boards, you got to dig deep. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find Family Y. And Q's been telling us this from the beginning. I mean, I want you to see something here. Because when I talk about Clinton and SAP's special access programs, what you're not getting involved in is the back-end deals that were actually happening here. Roger that, Madam Secretary. Classified state. Clinton Foundation plus Soros journalist. Soros direction. Africa, Saudi Arabia, SAP, Special Access Programs. China, Russia, Iranian one, Hussein, directed Benghazi, MB, CIA assets, crimes against humanity, route, humor. Nothing is truly ever deleted. Threats, blackmail, bribes. It's all coming forth. But that's important to note when we start talking about Soros's involvement in all of this. He was the back-end control mechanism. Back-end control mechanism for Clinton. And if you go through it, you can start seeing it in the boards. So how does Soros communicate secure with DNC leaders? The post right before that, or post right after that, 4002. Soros invests February 14th in Blizzard. Coincidence? This is the Activision. He's talking about CrowdStrike testimony, a Russian hack. We keep on going down here, and the further we get into the post, there's something that happens in here. This one right here. Soros takes orders from P. You have no idea how sick and evil these people are. Fight, fight, fight. Day of days, game over. Who is P? P is the Pope. Here's another one that'll bring it into context. Rothschild and Soros. Well, what else is going on here? You scroll down, and the further you get, there it is. The one post, 189. Identify symbolism, owl and Y. Which performer celebs, which performed her rallies, jewelry, etc., etc., etc. Puts conspiracy theories, social media role. The graphic is the key. Part 2. How were they adopted into the cult as children? They were indoctrinated. Just like Ashley Biden in her diary talked about her father grew up in you, they were groomed by their parents. But when we go down into here, right above that, reread graphic. What family did Soros replace? Why? Who is family Y? And I believe it's 142. 142 is the post that I'm talking about specifically, where it discusses family. Well, yep, there it is. Oh, geez, I'm pretty good at those cue boards, but I didn't know I was that good. Post 142. How did Soros replace family Y? Who is family Y? Trace the bloodlines of the three families. What happened during World War II? Now, Q tells you right here. Who is family Y? Trace the bloodlines of the three families. Now, this is different than the triangle that he talks about later on when he's talking about net worth. Who are the three families that form family Y? In the 1860s, the Vatican just went bankrupt. The Holy See was penniless. They needed money, and they called in favors from the black nobility families in Italy. One of the main families, the Colonna and the Orsini families. The Orsinis were really good friends with the financiers of the Napoleonic Wars, of the socialist revolutions of Europe, the Rothschilds. The Orsinis called in the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds and the Orsinis combined to loan the Vatican money. From there, deep infiltration occurred within the Vatican, primarily the creation of the Black Pope and the Black Church and the rise of the Jesuit order. Now, why does that matter? Because George Soros, in his negotiations in Hong Kong in the 1960s and the 1970s, met the Rothschilds. Why? The Rothschilds helped build Hong Kong. If you didn't know it, HSBC, longstanding, was one of the main financiers in Hong Kong. This is along with another family known as the Eastern Dragon families. This you can read about in the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, is the Li family. The Li family owns Hong Kong. They are the triads, if you ever heard of them. They made deals with the Rothschilds. So now you have Orsini, Rothschild, Li family. Family Y. George Soros. George Soros is the public figure that sponsors their agenda. That's the systematic destruction of the old guard that we're witnessing right now. That upper echelon of that hand is what's being dismantled and taken out. I don't even know how I got into that rant, but I guess we had to talk about it. What was it? Oh, I must have been talking about something. Oh, Smartmatic, Soros. Okay. All right. Next on the list, Donald Trump says today, my special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has just had a highly productive meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Great progress was made. Afterwards, I updated some of the European allies. Everyone agrees this war must come to a close, and we will work towards that in the days and weeks to come. Thank you for your attention on this matter. And then we learned today that Donald Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin over the next week in person. That's going to be interesting. Rubio said, for the first time since this administration began, we began concrete examples of the kind of things Russia would ask for in order to end the war. Now we need to bring the two sides close enough so that we can have ultimate closure. President Trump is leading that. And like we said, President Trump is supposedly meeting Vladimir Putin next week. Now, don't think for a moment that Vladimir Putin and Trump are enemies in any way, shape, or form. They're not. They're going to give each other a big old handshake, pat on the shoulder. Oh, yeah. So Donald Trump today announced that Apple will be making all iPhones and watch screens in Kentucky, bringing back jobs to the United States of America. For the first time ever, 100% of iPhones and watch screens will be made in America. Now, Scavino posted this earlier in commemoration of it. And you have some interesting pictures that come up here with Apple, right? Interesting pictures. Look at Trump looking at the Apple. But Alpha had a lot to say about this, and I think Alpha was spot on. He says, why do I get Q1677 vibes from this post of Scavino? And if you look close enough in this post, this screen right here has an upside down Apple logo on it. What you're actually looking at is another picture with the Apple logo reflected in the screen with the Apple logo upside down. Apple logo. That's Air Force One, by the way. Trump, Air Force One, Apple logo in reverse right there in the back. Now, why does that matter? August 11th timestamp. There's one out there, and it talks about America's back, baby. But also, if you go into the cue boards about Apple, Apple was in bed with China. China was producing a lot of the chipset for the Apple iPhones, and this was allowing them to build backdoors into them. The signification of this today, with Scavino saying that in the deal that was made, is that the ties have been cut with China for iPhones, and I think that that is hugely significant. We don't need to go into that. Now, this was kind of interesting. President Trump, he claims he did not personally authorize the transfer of Ghislaine Maxwell and had no prior knowledge of the DOJ's plans to move her. That's kind of interesting. Makes sense because he's got to have plausible deniability, and it wouldn't be his decision to move her, but she was moved for safety and security, of course. George Soros, Beto O'Rourke, behind the funding of the Democrats in Texas fleeing over the GOP congressional mapping brief. Now, Attorney General Ken Paxton came out today and said, I just launched an investigation into Beto O'Rourke's radical group of unlawfully funding the runaway Democrats to the Q Center in Illinois by support of Governor Pritzker. This is going to open up a can of worms with the Soros foundations because they're directly involved in it. Now, this interesting article that I have right in front of me, the CDC has issued a travel warning over a viral outbreak of China that is spread by mosquito bites. Wait a minute. You talking about the next pandemic has begun and Bill Gates and his mosquitoes? Oh, that's what we're talking about here. D7 protein of the mosquitoes. That's right. China has a viral outbreak now being caused directly by mosquitoes. You guys want to read that and many other awesome Substack articles? Go check out my Substack. You hear me talk about it every night. It's the place to be. It's the coolest place in the world. It's the one place where you can read and be happy with yourself right there. redpillproject.substack.com. Check it out, redpillproject.substack.com. Appreciate all the subscribers out there and supporters. You guys are awesome. Now, we're going to get into a little interesting conversation. I've said since the get-go of the Donald Trump administration in 2025 that what you are watching is what's called trickle-down disclosure. They are slowly releasing little nuggets and little tidbits of classified information through public appearances. And when you hear them, you're like, wait, what? Now, what am I talking about? We're talking things like Army Secretary Dan Driscoll saying that I just talked to an astronaut on the moon who's a soldier. That's trickle-down disclosure. Like former General Steve Quast going on the Sean Ryan podcast and talking how China has manned missions to the dark side of the moon and they're mining helium-3, and that we have the X-37B up there that is beaming back electrical energy directly from the sun from its solar panels from the sun to a rectenna, and we're transferring that and powering systems with it. Trickle-down disclosure. The other day, we just heard that they're going to build a nuclear reactor on the moon within 10 years. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, just went on a podcaster and said aliens might be real. And we're continuing to look for the truth. And she was asked about certain things, and she said, hey, I can't tell you on here, but maybe one day I will. Then, this is where it kind of gets interesting. I found this. It's kind of everywhere. This is Aero Director Dr. John Kozlowski, talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, this is the current Aero Director under the Trump administration. Trickle-down disclosure, people. Talking to a scientist, quote unquote, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who does not believe in aliens or spacecraft and believes it's all made up. Listen to what's said here.
As an example of a couple of those cases that merit further analysis that are helping us refine our hypotheses, there are a few triangles that have been seen by local law enforcement.
These are glowing triangles in the sky.
In this case, very, very black triangle, triangular prism. So it looks like a pie slice, hovering about the size of a Prius, about 40 to 60 meters away. So as the officer was driving up to investigate underneath a glowing orb, which I'll get to those in a second.
I am so afraid right now. Are we? I want a bunker. Can I get a bunker for Christmas?
I'm worried enough about the damn triangle. No,
Floating orbs.
Okay. All right. Now I'm scared. Okay, go.
He slammed on his brakes, and this thing the size of a Prius, blacker than black, reared up 45 degrees and then shot up into the sky faster than anything he'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And as it was leaving his sight, it shot out red and blue fireworks, flares, so bright it lit up the inside of his vehicle. He didn't see any propulsion, no wind, didn't hear anything over the sound of his own vehicle.
And you have more than one of these sightings?
We have a few others, one from local law enforcement, some from the...
Okay. He was not able to get a picture.
No, I thought...
No dash cam, unfortunately.
How
That's Aero Director talking about that. We're talking about disclosure is coming, people. And it's coming very, very fast because you have to have it before 2026 because shit is about to get interesting. So, when we look at everything that's going on right now, what we're beginning to see is that FISA-gate is the foundation that leads to everything. The cornerstone, Epstein files, Epstein himself, leads to all of the other criminality that's happening through the multinational criminal organizations. We're talking about the systematic destruction of the old guard, this old criminal organization that exists globally that is being systematically destroyed. And it's happening in real time. They're just not mentioning the Open Society Foundations or George Soros at the moment. You can see it. It's all there. But those strings will get pulled when they're ready. At first, they're going to take out the henchmen. They're going to take out the little guy, Clinton, Obama, Brennan. They're going to push those people into prosecution first. And then they're going to go after the big dogs. And I think that this is going to happen relatively fast. 6 to 12 months is what you're looking at. The reason is because we got a new world to build and technology is skyrocketing exponentially. Donald Trump just said a few days ago, in 6 months, the economy is going to boom. His son at the same time tweeted, Buy the dip. Buy the market. Some hints for you. All right, guys. I'm out of here. I am going to have an early bedtime tonight, but I hope you guys all have a great night. It gets exhausting doing a lot of this stuff, a lot of shows and all this stuff. So I appreciate all the support over the years. Don't forget those thumbs up. We were number 37 on Rumble leaderboard. Let's get up into the top 10, top 20 if we can. Appreciate those thumbs up, guys. It definitely does help. And don't forget to check out DEFCON 0 and a new show coming this week with myself and one of my good buddies, Sean Morgan. We're going to be doing a crypto AI show. And that'll be coming to you rather shortly here this week. So I think Friday night is when it's going to premiere. So pay attention for that to come out. Other than that, guys, much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. See you next time.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell!